All right, jumping over to the vol side. So looking at vol, realized vol spiking obviously on this break higher by about 15 points across both names, taking implied vols with it. Front end BTC vol was up 9, ETH was up about 3, back end not doing a whole lot in both assets. Carry kind of moving down back closer to 0, very mildly positive in both names. OHLC charts, you can see we had on the way up, we broke Bitcoin implied ranges once, twice, tested it there, even broke it intraday there. So quite a lot of breaches of implied ranges on the way up. And even on the way down, BTC is now threatening to break to the downside. So it's a bit all over the place and really making life quite difficult for the short gamma players. I had said last week, the coiling price action that we're seeing usually resolves itself in a breakout of some kind. And we certainly got that, right? So now kind of need to wait for the market to reestablish a range before you probably want to get too comfortable selling gamma right now. You know, it can work, but you got very little confidence of what the new range is when you've just kind of broken out like this. So you probably want to see it carve out some ranges and start to kind of settle in a little bit before you get too excited on the short side. Here's your term structures. So obviously flattening, not quite a steep contango anymore. So Bitcoin curve flattening out, as was ETH. Very mild contango still there in ETH, but Bitcoin actually went mildly inverted. Front end vol back to 40, was closer to 30. And then ETH front end is there at around 60. So that's where we are. 20 vol spread between the two in the front end. Here's your time series. Usual sort of pattern where front end sells off into the weekend and then obviously comes out and bounces out a bit, and we did get the break as well, so that kind of helped. But you can see those spikes in the front end, they do get sold into pretty quickly. Ethereum front end, you see touching 70, didn't hang about though, went straight back down below 60 again there. You can see on the skew side of things, as the market was breaking higher, we did see call skew go quite big. Front end call skew hitting 4 vols in Bitcoin, similar sort of story in Ethereum. But since we gave up those highs and we actually turned south a bit, even though we are still much higher on the week, we have now seen put skew return. So there's definitely some hedging activity coming back in now, where people have come in and are willing to pay a premium for the puts. You can see that clearly here. The pink line, the red line was where we were a week ago. The pink line was where we were 3 days ago, where that call skew caught a bid. And then now the blue line is where we are today. So you can see front end BTC gone into about 2.5 vol put skew. Whereas, you know, as you go out to sort of September onwards, it is still in call skew there. And then looking at Ethereum, similar story. We saw a spike in the calls, but it has given it back, but it is still net higher for calls on the week. So whereas Ethereum was trading with a small put skew in the front, it is now about 1 vol call skew there in the front, and it goes out to about 2 vols as you go to the back. So you can see there that you probably had less profit taking on Ethereum when we got the spike and the turn, because Ethereum's now opened up the door for way more upside, right? Whereas Bitcoin is already at its all-time highs. So people who've been playing that break might want to take some profit on it. Whereas in Ethereum, there's still scope for it to really have a go at 3,500, 4,000 at some point. So it does make sense that the calls aren't going to give back their premium quite as quickly in Ethereum. And then here's the relative value, like that front end, as I said, front end ETH Bitcoin spread dropping from 26 to 20 in the weeklies. But when we go past the kind of August, September, December, etc., it has all bounced a little bit, right? So you can see here on the changes, ETH longer end, ETH kind of August onwards did catch a little bit of a bid, whereas Bitcoin was somewhat softer. And that is kind of consistent with Bitcoin calls getting sold to take profit, whereas Ethereum, not the case, and maybe even finding a bit of demand, right? So that kind of explains why that vol spread has kind of then re-engaged with Ethereum getting bought. You know, and the idea is if Ethereum's going to break 3,000 to the upside now, then there's no reason why it can't go at 4,000 potentially. So you may see continued outperformance of realized vol in Ethereum going forward, and that is being reflected in that curve. Now, I do still have my short Vega spread in December. The point of that spread was to play a more range-bound market and vols compressing. If we are not in a range-bound market and we are trending higher and we're going to keep going, then that spread probably doesn't make too much sense to keep. So I will sort of be delta hedging the Ethereum as it grows, as Ethereum keeps exploding higher. I will keep kind of make sure that delta is relatively neutralized. But let's say if Ethereum breaks 3,200 in short order, then it probably won't make sense to keep that spread on, basically, right? Because that could kind of go anywhere, right? And the environment where that spread works well would be an environment where the market just finds a range and goes nowhere for a couple of months, right? And not really doesn't really feel like that's the world we're in right now. Now that the breakout is happening, so I will keep an eye on it. It has given back the P&L that it was threatening to make. It was making a little bit. It's now down a little bit. Nothing crazy, but yeah, watch this space. And I'll update you guys with my thoughts on that spread as it happens. All right, guys, that is my update for Crypto Vol this week. It has been quite an exciting week. The market has ripped to the upside. The break is on. Let's see if it can continue. I'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember, this is just a little taster of what we do at Options Insight. To get access to all our research, including my in-depth vol market insights, flows and positioning report, and my portfolio trades, and a whole lot more, you can sign up at options-insight.com. I'll see you soon.